And so I always knew from the very first, when I was a little boy, that the opportunities that were important that were going to come to me were few, and that the trick was to prepare myself for seizing the few that came. This is not the attitude they have at a big investment counseling thing. They think if they study a million things, they can know a million things. And of course, the result is almost nobody can outperform an index. The idea of diversification makes sense to a point. If you don't know what you're doing and you want the standard result and not be embarrassed, well, of course, you can widely diversify. Now, nobody's entitled to a lot of money for recognizing that because it's a truism. It's like knowing that 2 and 2 equals 4. But the investment professionals think they're helping you by arranging a diversification. An idiot could diversify a portfolio. But the whole trick of the game is to have a few times when you know that something is better than average, and invest only where you have that extra knowledge. And of course, the bigger your edge, the more close the transaction was to a certain winner, the more you should bet. It's perfectly possible to buy only one thing because the opportunity is so great and such a cinch, or only 2 or 3. So the whole idea of diversification when you're looking for excellence is totally ridiculous.
Did you hear what Charlie said? Did you understand what Charlie said? First of all, he reiterated what Warren said yesterday, that in the video I showed you yesterday, that diversification is a joke. Anybody can do it. It's only an excuse for incompetence. What he said that I think you need to take away is that in your life, you will be presented an opportunity to make a major difference in your life. It was presented to me back in 2014, but I didn't recognize the magnitude of it. I didn't recognize that if I would take my $300,000 that I had at the time, and if I would put it into 5 stocks, $60,000 apiece, that it would turn into $58 million today. That's right. That's all it took. It just took me to recognize the potential. Well, that it's happening again. And what I'm here to tell you is it's not data, like Matthew McConaughey says on his commercials, that data is the new gold. The fact is, Matthew, if your backyard was full of gold and you didn't have a means to get the gold out of the ground, the gold isn't worth anything. And data is not worth anything unless you have the ability to monetize it. And there's one thing that will give you that ability to monetize it. And I've recognized it, and I've figured out the 10 stocks that make it possible. They make everything possible today. And I'm willing to share it with you.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
Here it is. I borrowed one from one of the companies that I'm investing in, because this makes everything possible. It's that thing, that chip, that makes the missiles hit the X in Gaza that the Israelis are launching on a daily basis today. They put an X on the map and they say, make sure that this missile hits this center, and it's done. It's done by a semiconductor. And if you'll understand semiconductors and how they're made and how the process is, it controls everything. It's that thing that solved the pandemic problem, that gave us a vaccine in a matter of months rather than in years. It's that thing that makes your TV, your toaster, your car, your autonomous vehicle. It's that thing that makes it work. Well, it has an ecosystem. It just doesn't appear, and it isn't just one company that makes it. Now, there is only one company that makes 85% of the machines that make the semiconductors, and 85% of them are made by one company. But that isn't the company who designs them. There's a whole handful of companies that design them for the specific needs that they need. One company was Intel. It made its fortunes off of designing the semiconductors for the PCs, but ignored the cell phones, and basically came close to going into bankruptcy because they weren't making the product that they need. In fact, we don't make any of these semiconductors in the United States, and we're hoping that Intel gets its act together and puts us back in the game. But right now, we're at the mercy of a company in Taiwan. Now, for your toaster, they don't need Taiwan. That's made in China. But our country needs to get in the business. Now, we design most of them. It's like Apple. Apple doesn't make its, I think there's 8 of them in the cell phone. Different ones do different things. Now, and the big computers, the ones that NVIDIA is putting their design chip, they don't make the chip. Understand, they don't make it. That chip is made in Taiwan by a machine that is made in the Netherlands, and that's the core of everything that is going to happen in our future. And Matthew McConaughey comes on for Salesforce and says it's all data. Well, somebody has to process the data. And Salesforce doesn't make the chip. It doesn't even make the tools that make the chip. Now, there is 4 companies that own most of the data. Now, the most valuable thing in this world today is not the chip. It's the guy who's going to make the next chip. It's not the baseball player that just got signed a contract for $400 million. It's the engineer that knows how to make the next chip. And who do you think's going to hire him? Who do you think's going to throw the money, the $400 million, to beat the baseball player side? Who do you think's going to throw the money at him so that they have the chip that is going to take cancer out of our bodies, that's going to cure global warming, that's going to power all of our, or direct all of our autonomous vehicles, just like it currently directs all the autonomous missiles that Israel is throwing into Gaza, or the drones that are directing the missiles out of Russia into Ukraine. Who do you think is going to hire the guy who's going to make all that possible? Who do you think that's going to be? Well, I think I know who it is, because they're the people who have the money. They've been making the money. They're the people who would have made me $58 million in the last opportunity that I had. But right now, I have a new opportunity, and I've got $600,000 to throw at it. And I figured out the 10 companies that are going to make this possible. And over the next 3 months, I'm going to belly up to them. And it may be more than 10, it may be 12, and it may be 8. But this is the opportunity that Charlie was talking about. The opportunity in my lifetime to double down, to maybe even leverage up. Because I know the one thing that's going to make it all possible. And it's not Salesforce, and it's not Palantir. It's that chip. And it's not that chip, because there's CPUs and there's GPUs and there's transistors. There's 1 million transistors on the GPU chip that is made by NVIDIA, and then they have a special software. Well, they don't make it. No, Taiwan Semiconductor makes it. They design it. And Apple doesn't make its own chips. No, they're made in China by Foxtron, and the phones are assembled in China, moving to India. But that's not the one thing. This is the one thing. And if you can understand it, and if you can get down to the dirty as to who makes it happen and who's going to make it happen, you can have Charlie's opportunity. You're going to make a number of investments, and then you're going to sit back and just watch them grow. You're going to have to check their financials and make sure they're financially strong, and you're going to have to understand where the level of resistance is and where their level of support is, because it's kind of important that you buy in at the right price. And the right price is going to present itself as a result of some events that are going to occur, interest rates and inflation and geopolitical situations within the next 6 months, so that you can get them at the price. I showed you this before, and I'm going to have to whittle this down because some of these companies aren't in play. No, this is a revelation that came, for the most part, from reading a multitude of books. I came to read books on artificial intelligence, and then the one I've shared with you just most recently, the chip wars. This takes me all the way back to the first transistor radio I had, a little that we walked around, with on our shoulders and played loud music into our ears, and that's why we wear hearing aids today, and the concerts we went to. No. This is Charlie's opportunity. This is my opportunity to become a billionaire. over the next 5 years just by investing in this one thing. There it is. It's a semiconductor. Understand it. Understand that on that semiconductor, there are 1 million transistors making a decision. Then they stack them 3, so there's 3 million. But that's a CPU. No, a GPU is more efficient, uses less electricity, is more expensive, but is more efficient. And that's what's going in the computers that are going in the data centers. It's not the PCs that Intel put its label on. No, that's all past history. But that's the one thing. Okay, come to my website. I'm not through this yet. I just connected the dots. Okay, but I felt it was imperative that I shared with my tribe, and I'm going to have a meeting this afternoon through our stock talk. On Friday we do this, and this will be what I will discuss with them, and I'll lay out with them the stocks that I'm focusing in on for my $600,000 bet. Okay, that'll make me a billionaire. Charlie said so. I mean, diversification, that's ridiculous. Invest in this one thing.